The White Tower. The train from Paris rolled through the gray mist of dawn like a silver serpent, and I pressed my forehead to the cool glass as the English countryside blurred past. Green fields soaked in dew, stone cottages crouching against the wind, and sheep that looked like moving clouds scattered across the hills. London was only an hour away, yet the thought of it filled me with an excitement that felt centuries old, the thrill of stepping into a city that has seen kings rise and fall, fires rage and fade, and millions of stories intertwine like cobblestones underfoot. When the train slid into St. Pancras International, the first thing that struck me was the sound. A symphony of rolling suitcases, hurried footsteps, and accents from every corner of the world. The scent of roasted coffee mingled with the damp air that drifted in through the open doors. London didn't greet me softly. It enveloped me in its restless rhythm. I hailed a black cab, iconic, polished like obsidian, and gave the driver my destination, the Tower of London. He nodded, eyes flicking to me in the mirror. First time in the city? Yes, I admitted, smiling. Ah, then you're starting at the right place. Everything begins with the tower. As we drove, the city unfolded like a map drawn in motion. Rows of Georgian terraces, red double-decker buses lumbering along like elephants, and people in tailored coats crossing streets with the precision of clockwork. Then, as we turned toward the Thames, the modern glass of the Shard reflected the morning sun, a blade piercing the sky, and just beyond it, standing steadfast against time, was the Tower of London, its pale walls rising like a ghost from another world. I stepped out of the cab, and the air by the river felt heavier, charged with memory. The Thames shimmered beside me, dark, cold, ancient. Across the water, the city rushed forward into the future. Here, on this bank, history whispered. Inside the outer gate, the cobblestones were uneven, polished by centuries of footsteps, soldiers, traders, queens, and the curious like me. The yeoman warder, who led our small group, was a stout man with a booming voice and an infectious grin. "Welcome to the tower," he said, his red and black uniform crisp against the gray stone. "You'll find no ghosts here, only good manners and bad decisions." He was half right. The tower breathed with stories of coronations and beheadings, conspiracies and survival. As we passed through the Trader's Gate, he pointed toward the murky water below. I trailed behind, fingertips brushing the cold walls, feeling their roughness, as if the stones themselves remembered screams and prayers. The White Tower, the oldest part, loomed ahead, its pale walls glowing faintly against the dull sky. Inside, armor gleamed beneath the lights. The elaborate suits of Henry VIII and his knights, their metal surfaces engraved with vines, crosses, and myths. I paused before one of the exhibits, a child-sized suit of armor belonging to a prince long dead, and wondered how a boy could grow up, knowing the weight of history, before ever knowing the weight of a sword. Up a narrow spiral staircase, the smell of old wood and wax filled the air. From a high window, I caught sight of the city again. Tower Bridge, majestic and mechanical, its blue beams stretching across the Thames. Tour boats moved beneath it like beetles, their wakes curling toward the shore. For a moment, I imagined the bridge lifting, opening its arms for a departing ship, a gesture of farewell, or perhaps forgiveness. Outside, the yeoman led us to Tower Green, the small patch of grass where Anne Boleyn, Lady Jane Grey, and others met their end. It was smaller than I had imagined, quiet, almost tender. "Not as grim as the stories make it," he said softly. "The executions were private, out of respect for the condemned." Respect, such a fragile word, standing in the shadow of power. I stared at the spot where so many had knelt, and the cold wind brushed my face like a ghost sigh. Before leaving, I wandered into the jewel house. The line moved slowly, reverent as a church procession. And then, there they were, the crown jewels. Gold orbs glinting under spotlights, scepters studded with diamonds that caught the light like lightning, and the imperial state crown, heavy with history and guilt. The labels spoke of tradition, but the jewels spoke of conquest. My reflection in the glass looked small, ghostly, caught between awe and discomfort. I tossed one a crumb from my pocket. It stared back, eyes sharp as obsidian, as if judging whether I belonged in this story. Then it croaked, a sound somewhere between laughter and warning, and flew toward the battlements. Crossing the courtyard, I felt something shift inside me. London had always seemed like an abstraction, a city of postcards and clichés. But standing there, I realized that its soul wasn't in its skyline or souvenirs. It lived in the spaces between, in the silence that followed a story, in the echo of footsteps over cobblestones worn thin by time. As evening descended, I walked along the Thames path, the river catching the last light of day. The London Eye turned slowly in the distance, its glass pods glowing like captured stars. Behind me, the tower's white stones grew dim, merging into the dusk. A street musician played a melancholy tune on a violin nearby, something timeless, something that might have echoed through these streets for centuries. I dropped a coin into his case and lingered, the melody weaving with the river's murmur. London, I thought, wasn't a city to be conquered. It was a story to be listened to. And like every great story, it changes you quietly, one heartbeat at a time. That night, as the lights flickered across the water, I whispered to myself, half joking, half in awe, I came to see the tower, and instead the tower saw me.